Okay, in this lesson, we're going to look at how to graph linear inequalities. Our essential question that you should be able to answer at the end of this lesson is you should be able to explain how to graph a linear inequality. So take a minute, get your notebook set up, and I want to jot down a few notes before we look at the actual graphing. So number one of the things that we're going to make sure of is we're going to graph this just like we graph an equation. So we're still going to need to find the slope and the y-intercept of the graph, just like we would do if it was a linear equation. But because it's an inequality, inequalities have more solutions than just an equation. So the next thing we have to think about is when we connect our points, we're either going to connect them with a solid line or a dotted line. And this is very similar to when we do an open and closed circle when we graph on a number line. We put a solid line if it's less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. So the key thing is the equal to. If it's got equal to in it, we're going to connect the points with a solid line. And then a dotted line would be if it's less than or greater than. Okay? Another thing I want you to jot, and then after that, actually, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to shade, just like we do on the number line. We're going to shade above the line or below the line. Sometimes we shade to the left of the line or the right of the line if it's horizontal, vertical, up and down. But most of the time our lines are going to be diagonal. Above the line is obviously if we have a greater than sign. Below the line is if we have a less than sign. I want you to realize that the graph represents all the possible solutions. And that's why we're graphing it, because there's lots and lots and lots of solutions. Remember that because this is a linear equation, your solutions will be ordered pairs because we have to have a value to represent x and a value to represent y. And the graph does represent all possible solutions, so I want you to realize that the solutions are in the shaded area or on a solid line. If it's a dotted line, a solution would not be on the line. So take a minute, make sure you have all of those notes jotted down, and then restart the video and we'll look at the graphs. Okay, whoops, not that paper, wrong paper. Let me give you the blank one. Okay, so let's look at this first inequality and graph it together. Notice it's already in slope-intercept form. So that makes it nice and easy. So remember I said the first thing we need to do is identify the slope and the y-intercept. Our slope is -2 and our y-intercept is -2. That makes it a little bit easy. Remember the first point that you graph on the line is our y-intercept of -2. And I didn't write that. So here's my y-intercept of -2. And if my slope is -2, remember, we're going to move down 2, right 1, or up 2, left 1. Now remember, don't just automatically connect your points. You've got to look to see what kind of symbol we have. We have the symbol greater than. It's not equal to. So these points are going to be connected with a dotted line. Okay, so that's the first thing we have to think about. Then we have to look at our symbol and say, okay, this says y is greater than. So where is above the line? One thing I like to tell students is think of your line as the stairs, and think about if you were walking on the stairs, where would you walk? Where would you draw your little stick figure? So wherever your person would be, wherever your feet would hit the line, that is above the line. And then obviously we wouldn't walk upside down, so that would be below the line. And so our inequality said greater than And so we would shade this area. Now remember, we said the solutions are in the shaded area, or if it's a solid line on the line. Well, this is not a solid line. So we would want to pick any ordered pair that is in this shaded area. So for example, 0, 0 would be a solution. 1, 1 would be a solution. 2, -1 would be a solution. Okay, so hopefully you're getting the idea there. Lots and lots more solutions. Remember, you can check your solution also by plugging it back into the inequality. I'm going to take 1, 1, and seeing if it makes a true statement. This would be 1 is greater than -4, and that is true. So that just double checks that it is the solution. Okay, let's look at the next one. Notice this inequality is in standard form. We have to change it into slope-intercept form in order to graph this. Even though we know sometimes we can graph with standard form using our intercepts, we need this in standard form to make sure we shade the right direction. Now I want to remind you of our inequality rule. When we divide by a negative, remember we have to flip the inequality sign around. And I'm going to go ahead and get this truly in slope-intercept form. I'm going to reduce. Notice we've got negatives divided by negatives in both cases, so that's why everything came out positive. So here my slope is 3/4, and my y-intercept is 2. So I'm going to come over to my graph. I'm going to plot my y-intercept of 2. My slope is 3/4, so up 3, right 4, or down 3, left 4. This time, my inequality symbol has the equal to in it. So this time we're going to use a solid line. It is less than. So again, think about where you would walk. That is above the line. And this time I need to shade below the line. If we wanted to list some solutions to this inequality, we could list anything on the line. Okay, so like 0, 2 would be a solution, or I could list something in the shaded area. 2, 0 is also a solution, and tons more solutions. Okay, I want you to try to do number 3 on your own. Okay, I want you to try to do number 3 on your own, and we'll check it in class tomorrow. Look at number 4 though, and I'm actually going to add a 5th one. Okay, so number 4 says y is greater than -1. Well, this is different. Remember, these two examples are going to be examples of horizontal and vertical lines. Think of it as if it was y equals -1. What is that supposed to look like? I hope you remember that this is a horizontal line, so I'm going to put my point where y is -1. It's greater than, so that means a dotted line. Okay, and this is easy because above and below the line should be pretty obvious here. It says y is greater than, so greater than is above the line. Very, very easy there. Okay. Okay, and then the last example, x is less than or equal to 3. If you need to think about it as x equals 3 to help you know which kind of line to draw, you can do that. We would put a point where x is 3. This is going to be a vertical line. It has the equal to in it, so that means it's going to be a solid line. Now sometimes we get a little bit messed up trying to figure out which way to shade because it's not really above or below the line, but it's saying x is less. So think about where are the x values less than 3. And less than, I hope you realize, is going to be this way. Okay. Don't forget to go back and do number 3 on your own, and we will pick up in class tomorrow.